Welcome to the Creators MBA podcast, your go-to for mastering the art and science of digital product entrepreneurship. My name is Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I help business owners generate consistent revenue from their digital product business without the need to be glued to their desks, constantly live launching, or worrying about the social media algorithms. I hope you enjoy our episode today. Hi there, friends. Destiny here, and welcome back to the Creators MBA podcast. I'm super excited that you are joining me here today. And I want to talk about something that I don't think enough creators, consultants, or experts are really thinking about. And honestly, it's one of the biggest reasons I see incredibly smart people staying stuck in inconsistent revenue, even though they are doing all the right things. And it's the idea that your expertise is intellectual property and AI is how you scale it. Now, I know when most people hear intellectual property, their brain immediately goes to patents, trademarks, and tech companies with legal teams and paperwork. They don't think about their coaching business or their consulting work or their digital products. But that is exactly the problem. Because when you don't see your expertise as an asset, you treat it like content. And content is something that you constantly have to produce. Assets, on the other hand, are things that work for you. And that one shift changes how you build your entire business. So today, I want to reframe how you think about your knowledge, your frameworks, your methods, and why AI is changing what's possible for expert businesses right now. Let's start here. Most creators and consultants don't think that they have intellectual property. They think in terms of what they sell. Maybe it's a course, a coaching program, a membership, a few digital products, some content on social media, an email list. But underneath all of that, something much more important is happening. Over time, you've developed a very specific way of thinking and solving problems. There's a rhythm to how you approach challenges, a way you break things down, a way you spot what's actually going wrong when somebody brings you a messy situation, a way you explain things that just seems to click for people. And if you really paid attention, you'd probably realize that a lot of the guidance you give sounds familiar, not because you're repeating yourself in a boring way, but because you have a method underneath it. There's a pattern and a logic. And that pattern is just not experience anymore. That, my friend, is the beginning of an asset. And most people never slow down long enough to realize that is what they have built. Okay, here's a really simple way to think about this. If someone else could use what you have built and get some similar results without you physically being there with them, that thing is an asset. That's your intellectual property. And most of you who are listening here already have this. You just haven't packaged it or treated it like something that stands on its own. You've been using it to serve your clients, to coach, to teach, to write content, but not something to build that works independently of your time. And that's where AI changes the conversation in a really big way. Because before AI, scaling expertise usually meant one of three things. Number one, you worked more hours. Number two, you hired more people. Or number three, you watered things down so more people could access it. And none of these are great options long term. But AI gives us a fourth option that really didn't exist before now. You can now scale the thinking itself, not just the delivery, not just the content, and not just the labor, the thinking that you have. And that, my friend, is a completely different kind of scale. And that is where a lot of people misunderstand AI. They think AI is mainly about writing faster, posting more, automating tasks, saving time. And yes, it absolutely does all of this. But that's the most surface level use of AI. The real power of AI is that it allows your expertise to exist independently of your time. It allows your logic, your frameworks, your methods, and your decision-making patterns to become operational, not just documented on paper and not just taught in a course, but really executed. And that is not just content, that is infrastructure. And that infrastructure is what creates assets. So let's make this a little bit more concrete for you. And this is where the idea of an AI coach clone comes in. And I want to be really clear about what I mean by this, because this is not just a chatbot that sounds like you. What I'm talking about is a system that's trained on your frameworks, your teaching methods, your decision logic, your voice, and your philosophy, so that when someone interacts with it, they're not just getting AI answers. They are getting your thinking. And that is a really important distinction. Because at that point, the system isn't just helping you work faster, it's carrying your expertise in a form that can show up for people, whether you are there or not. And that is intellectual property in an executable form. It's your knowledge, but now it can live, respond, guide, and create value independently of your time. And that changes the kind of business you're building. Think about what most creator businesses look like today. They're founder dependent, they're time bound, they're producing a ton of content. And if you stop showing up, things slow down. But when you build systems that carry your thinking, your business becomes less about your output and more about ownership. Like ownership of how problems are solved, how decisions are made, and how that value is delivered to your customers. And that is a completely different level of business design. And this matters even if you never plan to sell your company, because intellectual property isn't just about leverage, pricing power, partnerships, and building something that isn't fragile. It's the difference between I sell things to I own this system. And AI is the most accessible way creators have ever had to build those systems. So how do you start thinking about this way in your own business? I want you to ask yourself, instead of asking, what content should I create next? I want you to start asking, what system am I building? And instead of asking, how do I launch this? Ask yourself, does this create an asset or is it just revenue? Because revenue definitely pays bills, but assets build long-term businesses. And that is a huge shift for most creators out there. And here's a simple way I want you to think about this process. It starts with really paying attention to your expertise. What do people consistently come to you for? What do you find yourself explaining again and again? And where do clients usually get stuck before they find clarity through you? These patterns are not just random. They are the raw material that you can put into your IP. And then from there, the goal is to structure what is in your head. I want you to turn that experience into frameworks, models, processes, and systems. And this is the part that most people skip because it feels slower than just creating more content, but it's actually the part that will create that long-term value for you. And once you've done that, AI becomes incredibly powerful, not because it writes about your knowledge, but because it applies it. It helps your people and it guides them through real decisions and actions. And this is exactly why I have built my AI Coach Clone program. Not because I want to teach people how to use AI tools. There's a million videos out there for that. I built it because I want to help you and those experts out there who are sitting on incredible expertise and these valuable frameworks with no system for turning that into a scalable, ownable assets. This program isn't just about tools. It's about helping you take what is already in your head and in your content and turning it into something that it can live on its own. It can operate and create value independently of you. And that is a very different goal. And it's the goal behind every sustainable expert business I have seen out there. So if there's one thing you take away from this, I want you to know that AI is not just about making your work faster. It's about making your expertise ownable. And when your knowledge becomes structured, transferable, and executable and scalable, it stops being just something you do and it becomes something that you own. And this, my friend, is the future of creator businesses. We're not going to be just creating more content or doing more launches. We are going to be creating assets. We are going to create transferable assets. All right, that is it for today. And if this episode got you thinking differently about your expertise, that is exactly the point, and I would love to know. And if you're curious about what it would look like to actually build your first AI-based knowledge asset, I'm going to link it to some resources in the show notes below. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. If you love the show, I'd appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.